Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian Farmer. It's Choppy Trade Group, and this is your end of day market recap for Monday, August 28th. And yes, this is the very last week of August, and we will get to Friday on Monday. So before I get into any of the nitty gritty, risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. Please read the full risk disclaimer there. So what I will try to cover for you in this video today is just kind of overall. We'll start with the big picture, some things to watch for this week. We'll talk about how the indices behaved. We'll talk about, a couple clues that you can, levels to watch in the indices to basically formulate a little bit of a trading plan for this week, or just to basically watch support and resistance levels. That's what the TTG MarketWebs indicator does for us, is just really give us a sense of, try to help make decisions based on where there's significant support and resistance. And then I will go through about a good number of charts today in single names where I'm showing some strength, where I'm seeing some a bit of trading opportunities. So let's get to the to what to basically watch for the week. Of course, one of the stories from last night was that China is still providing stimulus, very different than what the U.S. and, for example, European countries or ECB is doing. With tightening, right? We got more news overnight. Now, the Shanghai did open up like 3-4%, but it gave back a lot of the returns. You could look at that as glass half full, half empty, depending on what your view is. But the Shanghai did finish up 1.2%. So if you're thinking like, glass half empty, wow, that really sold off from the open last night. Glass half full, at least it opened up 1.2%, and or at least it closed up for the day, up 1.2%, and the Hang Seng also up 1%. And there was some momentum in some of the China names today. European, by the way, indices actually did very well today. The Euro stocks were up 1.4%, so a bit better than what the U.S. did. So I mentioned I will talk about some of the economics for the week. I'll do that really quickly, but it's a little bit everything this week in terms of data. And again, Thursday will be the end of the month. Friday will be the first of the month, and then we have our 3-day weekend for Labor Day weekend. But tomorrow you'll get JOLTS jobs openings, and we'll also get consumer confidence. There's some other data in there, but those are the two big data points for tomorrow. Really, where my eyes kind of shift to is, we'll get GDP, I guess, this week, but that's more of a lagging indicator. Really, I think what the most important data point will be, even though Fridays will be important too, because that's a monthly jobs data, but you'll get PCE deflator. And I think if you listen to Powell on Friday, he did mention, I think he talked a little bit about that, as that's one of the gauges of inflation that they really tend to look at. In my opinion, again, I'm interjecting my opinion in here, but you'll get the on Wednesday, you'll get the ADP employment number. Remember how this works with the ADP employment number. What do? Ignore it. Sometimes it's up. Sometimes it gives a number that's in line with the real report, which will be on Friday. Sometimes it's completely out of whack. And I think last month, I don't remember what it showed, but it was the opposite of what the number that came out on Friday. So I don't, I normally tweet out important economics. The one thing that you will never see me do is tweet out an ADP employment number. All right, so that's some data to watch for the week. The price action, all over the place today. And I think my spreadsheet does a good job at summarizing this. If you just look at, what I've got up here, right? What I have in one column, percentage change from the open, because I want to see what happens from the open, whether or not there was buyers, sellers that basically came in, and what areas actually did outperform. So if you look, there was not like in the overall change for the day, not a lot of major outperformance or underperformance in the SPY, Qs, IWM. They all finished up around 0.75%, maybe 2/3 of a percentage point if you want to split hairs. But there was no movement at all from the open to the close. Now, there was some volatility throughout the session, but when you look at like the overall move, the SPY and Qs, you could have basically, if you like to trade these indices, Again, there was intraday volatility, but the beginning of the day was not much different than the close. There was some outperformance in the small caps. They actually outperformed the most from the open. They had some early momentum to them. And yeah, they finished up. They led a little bit today, both the micro caps and the small caps. TLT bonds weren't really much of an issue. I want to go over these charts with you guys really quickly. We'll get some of the boring stuff out of the way, but for now, both the long bond, the 30-year bond futures, as well as TLT are holding where they need to. Now, there's nothing really to kind of jump up and down about here. We haven't changed course. The trend is still down, but for TLT, and again, I'm looking at the weekly chart, and the week has just started, but you could see we're basically we're holding support. So the question will be in these things, and here's the VPOC takeout and the 30-year bond futures, right? And since we took that out, we are seeing a reversal, but we haven't been able to get over like the 20-day moving average. So they're kind of been going, the volatility has been very quiet in bonds the last couple of days. I'm a fan of that. I don't really want to see big bond volatility because that spills over to volatility in equities. Also, UUP, someone brought this to my attention today. Really good point. The dollar has been very strong over the last about month and a half, 2 months, but it is overbought at this point. The RSI is now getting pretty cooked, right? If you look at this, anything over 70 is overbought. Right now, I think this is just jumped off overbought levels. So 68, but again, you've seen this the last time that these things have gotten overbought. There's usually some type of a move back or some type of a check back. So yes, overbought. We have been trending here. We got above this version point of control. Maybe we see a slip back to this at some point. Maybe some of those economics this week will cause that. All right. So just a couple things to take note of. Again, the dollar bonds, something that I really pay attention to, because those could be headwinds for equities if rates are going higher and if the dollar is going higher. So again, pretty innocent looking candle for the day, right, for S&P. But here's what we did, just all over the place, right? Notice that we had some difficulties. There's some resistance up here, right? And notice that we came in and checked back here. This is just a 5-minute chart. One of the biggest moves, I always tell traders, like, don't get confused around the 12 o'clock hour, right? It's the least amount of volume. I did a whole 5-10 minutes. It was I think it was in Thursday's video about don't getting fooled between 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock, right? That is when the least amount of volume occurs. Algorithms don't trade much then, especially something like the VBOP algorithm, but so you have your opportunity, like, to say, okay, here's this low volume bounce, sell into it by the time 1 o'clock happens, and between 1:05 to 1:20, right? You're going to be able to tell if algos really start to come back on, volume starts to come back on, and you could see we gave back all of that lunchtime little bit of a bounce, right? But we did hold support. Notice again that there was an end of day buy program that happened, but you could see that there's price does not really want to didn't want to get out of the range today. So we'll have to kind of see. There's some overhead resistance here. Here's where I mentioned in the beginning of the video that there is some things that I point out that you can watch. Watch this 44.26 level, right? We opened up last night. S&P futures not doing much, and then we really kind of took off around 6 o'clock this morning, right, and got over and out of the value area for the week. And we did take out this version point of control. Saw a lot of back and forth price action on it, but we're trying to resolve higher. So we'll just kind of have to be, see and be patient here. But for now, we're moving in the right direction on just the 1 hour chart. Here's what the Qs and the Qs in the S&P 1 hour chart are very, very similar looking. Price did get out of the value area. Again, had a little bit of difficulty with this version point of control, and that's just last week's point of control. Right, that's where a good amount of volume occurred in the previous period. Right, again, I've showed this chart a couple times, but just amazing. The version point of control to version point of control, and then this one coming right in the middle. right? So, you know, the value areas on the 1 hour chart, that's why I bring up this chart, because it's given us some really good signals. And just to give you a look at what the small caps did today, right? There's a virgin point of control up there at 187.17, which I think may have been taken out, but it's not showing that on the 1 hour chart. Regardless, your support is 185. That also made its way out of the value area. So a step in the right direction. You know, again, one day's not a trend, and we have to remember that, especially with what we're doing right now, with chopping around over the last week. But you know, making a step in the right direction, I would say. Let's get to some individual names. You know, I'm going to bring out the first one that is getting, you know, has gotten the most attention over the last week, and that's NVIDIA. Same thing here. It held support where it needed to, 451. Now, you know, is this chart like ready to, is this name ready to blast off to the upside? I don't think so. You know, and you may have some type of a head and shoulders. Again, remember with head and shoulders patterns, they're not a head and shoulders pattern until they break a neckline. So you could see you do have a left shoulder a head and a right shoulder materializing, but until you break this 451, then I wouldn't worry about that pattern. Remember, everybody always seems to want to anticipate patterns, right? But a lot of times, especially with a head and shoulders pattern, I see them all over my charts. Until they break the neckline, it's not a head and shoulders. But you could try to stay one step ahead and say, okay, this could be this, or it could be that, right? And really, there's not much to really go on here in terms of, like, you know, trading edge that I see, because you're going to have some resistance here at 481. My thought with NVIDIA is there's so many, you know, this name got overcrowded. Everybody's watching it. Let some of the attention drain out of this name. For now, you know, you can buy dips, like that dip into the top of this week's value area got bought, and you could use it to scalp. But I think right now, you know, until this name really gets over 478, the breakout is not in place. For now, we're just inside the value area for the month. All right. I talked about that one first. Carvana was a great name. I put this, I had this in, not in our watch list, but as a name to watch. And I realize that statement makes no sense, but Carvana is a is a name that has you know, high short interest, and it's not a super quality name. However, the chart setup looks pretty good to me. I did mention it, and I said I'm not putting it on our watch list. You know, we put out a spreadsheet with triggers and so forth, but it did make a nice move out of this consolidation. And sometimes the chart setup, and sometimes if you cover up the symbol, you might find something. You know, you remove your biases, because this was up 10% today and made a hell of a move, you know, out of this consolidation and above these short-term moving averages. So I thought it looked appealing. Did I trade it today? No, I didn't trade it today. Let's talk about a few other names. I just thought that that was a good name to bring up. But we know VRT is another name that's getting a lot of attention, right? This name got out to new highs too. Nice little neat setup here. I did add this to the TTG trend portfolio about 2 weeks ago. And this, I think, up about 8 or 9% since that. Another name that had strong earnings is MOD, right? This is making a nice move here too. Similar little setup here, except we're not out to new highs yet, but nice check back, a little bit of a false break below the 20-day moving average, and moving very nicely. Another name that I think is interesting, right, is APPP. Or APP, sorry, AppLovin, right? Had good earnings and has just been grinding higher. Watch, again, the 1 hour chart will give you a little bit of a different perspective, but I think as long as this stays above 40.32, you might see this thing break out and maybe up to 42.89. Very nice here. Celsius, which is another name that people are watching. I went over in my Friday video. Didn't do much today. That's fine. You know, even, you know, a little bit of consolidation is fine, but watch for some continuation and see if it can break through highs for the week. I think that's a must watch name. Celsius, again, we went over in Friday's video. A new name that I'm showing you is OLED. Right, this is one of those names that's on our earnings watch list. Real nice move on earnings. You know, took out a virgin point of control over here. By the way, if you're not familiar with virgin point of control or any of the terms that I discuss using value areas, just go to my YouTube channel and you'll be able to find a video about a week to 2 weeks ago on the MarketWebs indicator, where I review all the definitions and applications. So OLED, right? Again, took out this virgin point of control, right, and has been digesting, found support right where we want to see it, which is at 146.43, and starting to kind of make the move up. I have no position in this one either, just kind of watching. KTOS is a name that I have had a position. I'm down in it. I have not added to it just because I just don't want to. I just don't want to put on too big of positions in this market right now. And it looked like it was going to try to turn about a week ago, and it failed. So for now, I'm just kind of being patient. Let's see if it can get above recent recent highs and maybe break this trend line and start heading up to maybe 1647 on the 1 hour chart. That's a 1 hour virgin point of control. The energy group, that was one of the groups that I saw some strength in when I was going through a lot of charts over the weekend. There's just a bunch of them. I wanted to bring up this one first because I think it's a good example, and you may not understand what I tweeted out earlier today, but Weatherford, right? So first, let's start with the daily chart, right? Nice consolidation in here, right? Huge move up, continuation after earnings, but has been just settling in here, right? And again, that's quite normal, especially in this market. But overall, just names that have been trending for a bit, they like to rest a little bit and consolidate before they take their possible next leg higher. What I like about this 1 hour chart is look at how thin the value area is, right? This name did nothing last week, right? So super tight consolidation. I think even here is not bad to kind of pick away at a position. Just be mindful that the one thing that you have to be mindful about with the super thin value areas is that price can get through them very quickly. So I would set my stop like right below that value area for the week, which is right around 83.90. But even if it, like, you would want to see either just continuation from here or a check back would be even better, get you involved maybe a little bit cheaper. But overall, I think this is a really nice name in energy to focus on, especially with that the nice setup of the super slim value area, which usually means that a decent move is on the horizon. Another name that I always associate for whatever reason with Weatherford is Baker Hughes. Not quite as slim a value area, but I like the setup, and I did take this trade today. I did take a quick target in this today, but I'm looking for this to punch out of the value area. A few other names do I want to go over in the energy space. AMR, this is a coal name, just continuing to go higher. Uranium has seen, a bunch of call interest. This is now getting out of the range. Really nice. I think the largest holding in this is CCJ, which you could tell is also continuing to grind higher. Very nice move here in the uranium stocks, and continue to get interest, as I mentioned, on the call side. LI, all of the China names are starting to, the auto names are starting to turn. XPEV, I think, had the biggest reaction today, but I still like the LI chart the best because it found support and held support where it needed to, which is the top of value. And I would watch to see if it can just get above that 20-day moving average and may start to trend again. But that's what I would watch right in there. Just a couple other names to Caterpillar. I actually put on a bigger position in the beginning of the day. It didn't really do much for me, so I took off a portion of the swing trade just because I don't really want to put on big swing trades here. Swing trading is hard enough in this market, but I view this as a really as a high quality name. It made this huge move on earnings, and has been basically digesting that move over the last couple of weeks. So I like the fact that it's the first day in a couple of weeks that it's been back above these moving averages, and I did get long, right? And by the way, here's how what our watch list looks like. You could see not only do I have the change for the day, we have stop prices on everything, right? And also triggers, which are based on some of the levels that I'm going through. So there you have it. That's how we kind of lay things out, and that helps me get into trades. And this is sent to TTG members every every weekend, right? I go through the watch list as well as all the charts in our Slack training room. All right, guys, that is it for today's video. Have a great night. Again, I think you have to be kind of, happy with the way that the indices kind of closed in a very choppy session. And it's a step in the right direction. And we'll have to see if we get any follow through tomorrow. Have a great rest of your night and hope to see you in the trading room bright and early tomorrow morning.